forgiven for Pearl Harbor.
Just in case anybody of y'all wondering, yeah, we're by the way, we're fully on air just right now, Loudmouth. But in case any of y'all are wondering, Loudmouth, what he was saying is that the whole thing of Japan supposedly banning a bunch of Black Lives Matter attire for the Olympics, that was what he was meaning.
Yeah,
What?
I mean, let's see. I mean, the thing is, though, athletic events shouldn't be for political activism. The whole point of athletics should just be for athletics. I don't know why that's so difficult for so many people to understand.
Hmm. Yeah, I guess that'll be the first subject that we go talking about. Let me pull up the picture here. Screen share. And yeah, I came across this meme right here on my Facebook, actually, and it's kind of what piqued my interest into looking at this. It was shared by one of my more conservative family members, and I thought I'd just talk about this. Japan has banned all BLM apparel from the Olympics. No one can kneel, raise fists during the anthems. My thoughts, I'm proud of Japan. America should have been leading on this. And lastly, I think I'll be watching the Olympics because of this. Now, when I actually gone reading into this, and according to this article, right, where is it? Right here, by Washington Examiner, it's not actually Japan, the government, that is banning this. It's the Olympics committee that handles all the planning for this stuff. The impression that I'm getting here, well, actually, no. As explained in this article, it's not just the players, but also the audience members that wouldn't be allowed to do any BLM expressions of speech and whatnot. And so, my first impression when I read that meme, anyways, was that this is Japan taking a rather iron-fisted approach on free speech. I disapprove. Now, because it's but because it's actually turning out to be a private organization that's banning this, I say that they're within their rights, but I do not know how exactly I feel about it, so I guess I'll let you go, Loudmouth. How do you feel about this issue?
I mean, it's understandable. They don't want the venue to be about political activism. They want it to be about athletics.
Right?
It's about time to make a stand on that. Athletics should be apolitical. They've always have been historically. I mean, not always. I mean, like there's always been some political dimensions to the Olympics. For example, in 1980, how Jimmy Carter pulled America out of the Moscow Olympics to protest the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan and what have you.
Hmm. And I guess it's understandable that if you, as a private organization, private business, are wanting your employees while they're on the job servicing the customers and whatnot, which in this case, Olympians, Olympic stars, that they are servicing the customers by showing off their skills on the various different types of games and whatnot, and also during like whatever introductory phases, like a national anthem for whatever nation they represent. They are not meant to be taking a political stance or, well, not be expressing any political stances. Let me put it that way. And if a private organization wants their organization and their employees to remain apolitical while on the job, well, then that's more understandable. What kind of gets me, though, is the fact that they are saying that even audience members that go watching these games in person, that's where I think it is going a step too far. Like, again, I will say that within their private property rights, they are within their rights to deny people access to the games, to watching the games in person if they are wearing a certain type of attire that they don't want to. Just like if you are a liberal who owns a restaurant, you don't want anybody wearing a MAGA hat inside there. But you're within your rights, but I still am all like, really? I think it just goes a step too far.
If you think this is bad, imagine next year for the Beijing Olympics, if people want to like protest in the crowd. I wonder how that'll go.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Not just the private organizations, but also the government will come in, stepping in and taking the most iron-fisted approaches towards them. Like, oh, you're protesting for Hong Kong independence? How dare you? Arrest these people. Maybe even execute them, you know? Or whatever else atrocity you can imagine.
Oh yeah, There's talk of some people wanting. They've supposedly banned athletes who are going to the Beijing Olympics from criticizing the Chinese Communist Party for their own safety, because there's always a risk that the CCP will arrest them when they go there if they found out they had any record of criticizing the party.
Right. Tiananmen Square, y'all.
But the thing,
no, I was meaning if anybody was to be mentioning that as fact, they'd get arrested, was what I meant.
Yes, exactly. Anything happened on June 4th, 1989, yeah, we'll arrest you.
Hello, everybody.
Or to be less provocative, they might just ban you from the event.
Mm-hmm.
Not allow you in China. But so, if people are going to get upset about, like, the Olympics Committee in Japan banning certain political apparel, this is nothing compared to what's going to happen next year.
All right. Well, I haven't seen so many people complain about this yet. I just seen people on the right praising this action as of so far. But we'll see what developments happen when we get closer to the Olympics. You know.
In truth, I'm not really going to praise it too much, right? But I do kind of appreciate the idea that athletics events should be apolitical.
Fair enough. And very quickly, hello everybody in the live chat. Conundrum, Ivan's son, JC Armitage, and Night Shift 10,000. Night Shift 10,000 says, hey DarkCon, yeah, I'll be there on the 14th. And before I go any further, since I have 8 people watching, I'll probably make this announcement again when I have more ears listening. This Friday on the 14th at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, I'll be having a discussion live stream talking about Joe Biden's first 100 days as president, the failures and accomplishments that happened during his time, or the attempts, policy attempts that he has made, and so on and so forth. Have a little bit of debate discussion with this one guy named Doug Stuber, who is a pro-Biden guy. We're gonna have memes of destruction on, who is not quite pro-Biden, but he'll probably argue more devil's advocate. And of course, I will be on the more anti-Biden side, and have Night Shift 10,000 on there, and one of my anarchist followers, or anarchist subscribers, I guess, also on there, who goes by the Discord alias of Whitesnake. So stay tuned for that. There is one spot open for if anybody is that interested in joining, but I don't want to overwhelm the pro-Biden team that much. But anyway, so I guess we kind of gone over that subject, all fair, well, and good. Let me see. Okay. I was just wanting to check something there. And thanks, Conundrum, for promoting me in the live chat. How's everything going, he asks. Everything is going good, Conundrum. I mean, my life hasn't gone into turmoil yet, but who knows? It might soon enough if gas shortages hit the Midwest. Now, what do you have to say about the gas pipeline subject here, Loudmouth?
I'm wondering how the fuck it's possible to hack a gas line. That certainly wouldn't have been possible 50 years ago. It shows how dangerous it is to automate and computerize everything.
Right? Make everything like the Dune Society.
Yes. Eliminate all computers. We need a Butlerian jihad and just eliminate the computers, man.
I don't know if I would go that far personally, but I do see the pro on that side of things, at least.
Yeah. Frank Herbert saw the future, man.
Right.
Frank Herbert was a prophet.
I don't know that much about this, and I hear that this is mainly affecting the East Coast. So I have these 2 articles pulled up, CBS News and Washington Examiner, that will go a little bit more into the details of what exactly happened here. So without further ado, let's get into this.
All right.
Drivers along parts of the East Coast are feeling the immediate effects of the shutdown of the Colonial Pipeline following a ransomware attack. Some waited an hour or more on the lines at gas stations before filling up or learning the pumps had run dry. The Biden administration is imploring drivers not to hoard gasoline. Yeah, if everybody thought that the toilet paper shortages were bad, imagine how bad a gasoline shortage will be.
Yeah, well, I do wonder if the thoughts of a gasoline shortage will become basically a self-fulfilling prophecy. People will run on and all run to fill up their cars at once and create an artificial shortage.
Mm-hmm. Is is this the Alaskan pipeline that they hacked? Asks the conundrum. No, it's not the Alaskan pipeline. It's the what is called the Colonial Pipeline that is more along the East Coast more than anything. So we'll yet to see of what happens with the other segments of the United States, but who knows how much people will, other people will be affected. Anyway, the U.S. Energy Secretary urged motorists to not panic buy fuel, and said officials are considering moving supply by train or ship if necessary. I mean, that'll somewhat resolve the shortage issue, but it'll make it a little bit more expensive as far as transportation goes. Wah wah.
Yeah, and gas prices shooting up is really going to be wonderful.
Yep. I mean, it's already bad enough that Joe Biden had basically nixed the contract for the Keystone XL pipeline. Shut that bitch down.
Well, there was a joke headline the Babylon Bee did that said Biden announces a $2 trillion initiative to study why inflation is so high.
And that's going to be a kind of a connecting issue later on in this stream. But I'm not going to lie. When I first heard about this issue, came across this particular article, I thought the reason why these shortages were happening, and it was because Biden was considering or was trying to get more pipelines shut down. But it turns out, no, that I was wrong in my presumption, and it's actually a hack, yeah.
Probably by China, I'm guessing, but who knows? Could be by Russia.
Conundrum says, the gasoline shortage, I can see a Mad Max situation coming to fruition. Oh, brother. Yeah. Don't even jinx it, Conundrum.
Yeah, keep in mind, gasoline shortage would be really devastating. Keep in mind, every single city, their grocery stores have about 2 weeks worth of food, and of course trucks deliver all the food. So if there was a gasoline shortage that prevented the trucks from delivering the food, within a couple weeks, cities would have no food.
Eesh. And people thought the Floyd riots were bad.
Yeah. But I don't think that'll happen. But I'm saying that would be a even bigger danger of a long-term gasoline shortage.
Right. Sent 1000 says at the Conundrum, it's the one that went from Texas to New Jersey or something. Okay, so that's the jurisdiction that the Colonial Pipeline is in, I'm guessing. In Marion, South Carolina, Yashika Wiggins said, it was unbelievable. When I was driving today, I thought it was a catastrophe coming. I've seen all these cars waiting, and I was like, OMG, I have to fill my tank up. CBS Florence, South Carolina, I think you meant Carolina, typo, affiliate WBTW-TV reported that lines at stations from Marion and Mullins to Myrtle Beach. You know, I actually filled up my tank just this afternoon after getting off of work, and there was like no dramatic lines or anything happening like that here in Wichita. So I guess so far it hasn't affected the Midwest here anyways. How are you feeling it up there, Loudmouth? In your neck
I haven't noticed any serious problems yet, but who the hell knows? There have been shortages in some areas, and there have been long lines. So it's bizarre. Like the New York Times actually issued an article that said there's been that despite this, there have been no shortages, long lines, or price hikes. I'm like, why the fuck you lying? But you always lying.
Indeed. By the way, everybody who is watching right now, don't forget to hit the like button down below there for for a loudmouth singing to be calling out the New York Times as to how uncredible they are, showing themselves to be how non-credible they are again.
My God, they might as well write a breaking news that the sky's actually been green this whole time with that shit. Such
right.
They're straight up lying to you, like when there's literally video of this happening. There's literally people have seen it happen, and nope, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
By the way, if you could like link to that particular article, Loudmouth, I'd like to take a look at it sometime.
All right.
Conundrum says in the live chat, but trucks don't run on regular gasoline. They run on different type of fuel, diesel fuel. Most truck companies have their own personal diesel station. Well,
That's true. That's true. Yes.
fair
And
point.
that could save the trucking industry and prevent the food shortages from happening.
Right. I mean, I guess it kind of depends on how many of those pipelines go transporting like the raw, crude oil or whatever type of oil is required for making diesel. Transporting the raw oil to the diesel manufacturing plants. I mean, if those types of lines got affected, then that would be how that, transportation of goods, semi trucks would have been affected. But outside of that, I guess thanks for pointing out, Conundrum, how it might not be quite as bad as we might have thought. Very briefly, mind you, but anyway. The South was being hit hardest. Late Monday, almost 6.5% of gas stations in Virginia were out of fuel, according to travel app GasBuddy. It said more than 1% of stations in North Carolina and Florida had no gas. That isn't very high, I guess, in the grand scheme of things, but that's like higher than normal anyways, and it's still scary that it would like be like that at all in the first place.
Yeah, this hasn't happened in America in like 50 years almost during the Nixon era.
Right. Governors from North Carolina, Georgia, and Virginia have declared a state of emergency. North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper suspended some regulations to make sure the state has enough fuel. Meanwhile, Georgia Governor Brian Kemp suspended the gasoline tax. I mean, not that I am like being an apologist for taxes or anything like that, but talking about this from a more pragmatic point of view, I mean, to be suspending the gasoline tax, aren't you going to make that easier for more and more people to start panic buying more and more gas? Just saying.
Definitely.
Just saying, Mr. Kemp.
There is a reason why prices tend to rise during shortages. It's not just because oil companies are greedy. It's to prevent a shortage where you don't have any gas.
Right.
The speculators market where they bid up the price of gasoline prevents such shortages from happening.
Yep. Go on.
That's one thing a lot of people do when prices hike. They don't understand why they complain about speculators. Speculators do have a vital role in maintaining a stable flow.
I gotcha. Setman 1000 says, "Wait, what? The sky isn't brown and isn't falling like I was told?" In response to what you're saying about New York Times.
Yes. No, it is not brown and it is not falling.
And availability may not be the only issue. If this outrage goes past the end of the week, prices could spike pretty dramatically, said Kevin Book of Clearview Energy Partners. It's very difficult to pin the exact amount prices may rise, but for now it appears to be a few cents per gallon, possibly growing more significant if the pipeline remains shut down for more than 2 to 3 more days, GasBuddy said in a blog post on Monday. Prices were...
How would it take that long to reopen it? That's why it should be able to be manually reopened. If it requires you to unhack it, then again, that's a serious problem with automation.
Right.
All right. There should be a gas line worker who can do it manually.
I mean, if you want to go for the automation route, you gotta at least have to have a manual backup, for crying out loud. At the very least. Anyway, prices were already edging up before the cyber intrusion. True. Due to growing consumer demand and resurgent economic growth. I mean, there is a fair point to be made about that, but we'll get in a little bit. Actually, no, I'll address this right now. Like, this is another side issue that I was meaning to address today. Was I saw like memes like going back and forth shared around on Facebook by both liberals and conservatives alike. Conservatives being all like, oh, these rising gas prices are horrible under Biden administration, and liberals would be sharing their own memes saying, oh, the gas prices are because demand is going back up and the supply isn't staying caught up with that. I mean, yes, it is true that we are coming out of a an economic downturn of where that demand was lower, less people were driving in the heat of the lockdowns and whatnot. And yes, we are going closer to the summer, the summer season. I mean, isn't it true, Loudmouth, pretty much that the summer seasons are like the times of when that gas, there's more of a demand for gas as compared to the cold seasons?
Sometimes that can be the case, but also without energy prices can go down because there's less of a need to heat your home.
Ah, okay, yeah. Um, I mean, I guess that's there's that offset to take into consideration. But to get a little bit more to the point, though, I have this one chart that goes talking about gas prices that the trend of gas prices within the last 5 years. And I just gotta say that conservatives are being slightly hyperbolic because it appears that at some points of 2018 and brief points of 2019, that gas prices, at least as a national average per liter, were like about the same price as they are right now. As
I think people have just kind of been shocked at how fast they've been rising.
right. I mean, as you, I don't know if you can see this graph, Loudmouth and audience.
Yeah,
But
I know.
it's like a steady in 2018, then it kind of rises, dips at the beginning of 2019, or at least that's roughly where 2019 begins, rises again, and then it drops some more until 2020, and when the pandemic hits, demand really, crashes to where that prices go down as well. And now we're opening back
You know
up.
what it was like? You ever see that episode of The Twilight Zone, where the guy with the glasses has all the time in the world to read, but then he breaks his glasses and is like, it's not fair, it's not fair. But I felt like that when it came to that gas prices crash. Gas under $1 per gallon, but there was nowhere to go because everything was closed.
Right. Boring
It's
life
not
it
fair!
was back then.
It's not fair.
I would like to say, or at least I think that a contributing reason as to why that gas prices have been rising as well is because of Biden shutting down the Keystone XL pipeline. But that kind of raised it.
100% that contributed.
What?
100% that contributed.
Right. That although to be fair to liberals, as of when I go trotting out that criticism towards the Biden administration, I do gotta ask, in all honesty, of what kind of contributed to the rise in gas prices during these 2 points during the Trump administration. I don't know exactly, but might be an issue to put aside for a later point. Although looking at the 10-year span, I do want to point out at least that gas prices during the Trump administration were lower than they were for most of the Obama administration. But anyway, it's just a little side tangent that was kind of connected to this article. Continuing on, over the last week, the national average for a regular gallon of gas has risen 6 cents to $2.96, according to AAA. Should that trend continue, an increase of 3 more cents would bring the average to $2.99, which would be the priciest gas since November 2014, the Auto Club said. Around the nation since November 2014. Dang. That would be higher than at any point during the Biden or Trump administration, excuse me. So comparing Trump to Biden, you don't have anything to brag about or in that front. Around the nation, gas prices range from a high of $4.10 in California to a low of $2.61 in Mississippi, according to AAA. AAA suggests that drivers can conserve fuel by avoiding rush hour and minimizing air conditioning. The American Airlines said on Tuesday that it has been forced to add refueling stops for 2 of its long-haul flights. The 5,500-mile pipeline delivers roughly 45% of the fuels used on the East Coast. Oh, okay. So I guess the Colonial Pipeline doesn't exactly have the monopoly when it comes to transportation of fuel along the East Coast. The FBI says that a group of Russian cybercriminals who call themselves DarkSide is behind the disruption. Well, it looks like it wasn't China this time, Loudmouth. It was actually Russia.
DarkSide. I really don't like that bastard. Superman needs to kick his ass. Restore the Snyderverse.
Oh, okay. You went that route. I was about to make a Palpatine quote, but yeah. Right. Hashtag restore the Snyderverse. You did say that you watched the Snyder Cut, right?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And
it definitely was better.
And it does encourage you to want to see the rest of Zack Snyder's vision come to life?
Mostly because most of Warner Brothers' plans without Snyder, what to do with DC, seem to be a completely disorganized mess. Snyder's vision was flawed, and he definitely made some mistakes, but he at least seemed to have a direction.
Fair enough. Continuing on. The pipeline company was forced to pause the line's operations after the hackers accessed its computer systems. President Biden said Monday that he doesn't think the Russian government is to blame.
So so it wasn't even Putin. It was like just some nerd hackers in Russia who had nothing better to do but fuck up the United States.
Right. I mean,
why not? Right?
Okay.
Just gathered around, having a few beers, playing around with their computer. Hey, man, I just hacked the United States. It caused a fuel shortage there. Yeah, that's really going to piss them off, man.
Right. I think that maybe an investigation is prompted into these Russian cyber criminals called DarkSide, like who might be funding them and whatnot. I mean, I kind of misread that statement a little bit for a second there. Excuse me, because I thought that the first sentence said that it was the Russian government, but no, my bad. I'm going to be meeting with President Putin, and so far there is no evidence based on from our intelligence people that Russia is involved, referring to the government. Although there's evidence that the actors' ransomware is in Russia. They have some responsibility to deal with this, right? Russia, get your criminals' acts together, or whip them, whatever.
Are you kidding? Putin would probably give them an award if he found them.
Okay, if that was the case, well then it does seem kind of sus that it would be possibly the Russian government, and so therefore President Biden would be proven wrong. Just had another person join. Hey, Yaspy.
Hey, fellas.
Hey, Hunter, how's it going?
It's going good. College is just about over, so that's nice.
I can't hear you, man. You're
really quiet, Aspie.
Oh, really? I am?
Yeah, you might want to hold that like very close to your mouth for anybody to hear you whenever you speak.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, better.
Yeah.
Yeah, college is almost over, so that's nice. That's what I said.
I gotcha. Conundrum asks, what about the George W. Bush administration? Gas prices were high, especially when George W. Bush started the war on terror. You know what? To answer that question, just out of curiosity for the sake of argument, let's check out what it is. From 2000 through 2005, according to this chart, Conundrum, it seems that gas prices were like relatively stable. They rised a little bit, but they did not really spike until like after 2005, which I guess it could be
Katrina. Right after Hurricane Katrina, I remember that.
Yeah, that would be a contributing reason. Although, I don't know, that would probably be another thing worthy of research, but what exactly would have happened, that is, if I am right in this assumption, what would it be within the war on terror that would have helped contribute to this? And of course, that big spike was during the housing crash, and I think that might be the biggest contributor as to how that happened.
Well, it does make some sense because when you're in war, you need fuel in order to power the machines. So that goes back to what happened in World War II. The gas was heavily rationed because for the war effort. So
right.
so gas was rationed, and also the speed limit was like 25, I think, nationwide.
Wow.
Could you imagine having a nationwide 25 mile per hour speed limit today?
Yeah, no. People would be all road ragey and we'd be breaking that law consistently.
No one would get anywhere.
Yeah,
no one would be writing a lot of tickets.
Right. What was I gonna say? You know, speaking of World War II and rationing, fun fact: FDR had lead and paper rationed during that time as well.
Why paper I can understand, but why lead?
I mean, lead is needed to help make bullets, so.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
It's from a little book that I read and am still in the middle of reading called.
Plus, gasoline was still leaded at the time.
Right. Fair point. Anyway, U.S. officials and Colonial Pipeline say they hope to get fuel flowing fully again later this week. They insist there's no significant shortage yet. Tick, tick, tick. Let's see how that goes here within like 6 to 7 days. Colonial Pipeline's website was down Tuesday morning, but has since been restored after users are prompted to click a box verifying they are a legitimate website visitor. The company said Monday that a portion of the pipeline is back online under manual control. Okay, so I guess there is some manualization happening within this within the restart of the pipeline. Experts tell CBS News that 10,000 trucks are hauling fuel every day to make up for the pipeline being shut down. Conundrum. By the way, that's the end of the article. Conundrum, I see your request there in the live chat. I just want to remind you that this is a co-host specific show, Strikeforce News is, so I'm sorry for the sake of the consistency on that rule. I'm going to have to decline for right now, at least. JC Armitage asks, really, how much paper rations did the Federal Reserve get? I don't know, JC. I do not even know of how much printing gone on during the time of World War II. I mean, especially if you compare it to now. But anyway, so let me see here. Okay, never mind. All right, so somewhat in response to the shutdown that happened, Washington Examiner, oil and gas industry resists cybersecurity mandates after Colonial Pipeline attack. So for fuller context of this story, that is why that we're reading this. The oil and gas industry and some Republican leaders are resisting new calls for mandated cybersecurity standards for pipelines in the wake of the ransomware attack on the Colonial Pipeline. What?
I wonder where they're basing that off of.
For mandated cybersecurity standards. I mean,
maybe they should just, operate it manually. Therefore, no cyber hack could do any damage.
Right. I mean, sorry, loudmouth. Or Aspie, what were you saying?
Typically, the U.S. government has very poor cybersecurity because all of their computers are like 10, 20 years old. So, and
Russia and China seem to be able to hack us every other month nowadays.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
apparently there was like a medical hack that the Chinese Communist Party was able to do on our medical system. So bad news, everyone. If you have an embarrassing addiction or condition that you've sought treatment for over the last few years, there's a 50% chance the Chinese Communist Party knows about it.
Holy shit.
The worst is ransomware, and I heard some ordinary gamer talk about this. Basically, ransomware is where a virus gets into your computer and it shuts everything down, and a screen pops up saying, if you want your data back, you got to pay me X amount of money.
Right.
It's essentially.
Oh yeah. A lot of cyber criminals will do that. They'll try to extort people.
Yeah, exactly. It's a form of extortion. They did that to a hospital one time, and they all had to use paper documents until they were able to negotiate the price down. It's like something million at first, but then they were able to negotiate it down to like 40-something thousand and pay that off.
By the way, I just want to point out very quickly what you said there about the Chinese government now knowing a lot of Americans' addictions from hacking the medical databases of the U.S. Imagine the jokes that could be made from that, loudmouth. But on the serious side, that is rather scary. Another example.
Oh, it's fucking terrifying.
It's yeah.
How many of America's kids are being tracked with TikTok apps on their phone? Which is TikTok's owned by Tencent, which is a Chinese conglomerate.
I thought they banned
the Chinese Communist Party is tracking America's kids with it.
Yeah, I mean, oh god. And by the way, hello Cat Chat and Red Feather in the chat. Thanks for joining. But what was I gonna say? On Facebook, not too long ago, there was like this one meme that I saw of where that was saying something along the lines of people be taking pride supposedly about how mature they are for not accepting TikTok or whatever, and then I just say in the comments, or there are other reasons as to why that people are refusing TikTok. The OP goes asking, and what reasons are those? And I say, because TikTok is basically owned by a Chinese organization. And then one of the person's friends goes saying, it comes in swinging saying, I thought you were going to mention an actual reason, not this stupid ass reason, idiot, or something like that. And I'm all like,
Right.
Like, I'm not an idiot for explaining other people's reasoning for refusing TikTok.
And you're definitely not an idiot for not wanting to put spyware on your phone controlled by an authoritarian regime.
Yeah.
Exactly.
People just need to stop being fucking millennial hipster normies. Get their
I'm
head
really
out of the
just-
sand.
Honestly, the stupidity in our society scares me. Why the fuck would you load software that was developed by a communist regime onto your phone, dumbass?
Right.
Yeah, that's one thing that scares me is America could eventually, somewhere down in the future, could go to war with China, and I hope it never happens, but it might. And I especially because of that, I especially don't want to. Everybody's talking about that a second American Civil War might happen. If that happens, our infrastructure is going to be heavily crippled, and China will not be able to, and will be no match for China in that circumstance.
Right.
Well,
I got the
I
general
don't
point,
think
but you're
China-
slightly breaking up for a second there, SB, just FYI.
the Chinese Communist Party controls the largest army in the world.
Right.
Right.
Not necessarily the most
They are-
advanced.
They are
people.
very dangerous and very capable.
Not necessarily the most advanced army in the world, though. There's actually a video that I watched. It was quite a while back, actually. But we here in the United States spend more per soldier than the Chinese do. So there is an argument to be made that our troops have like a higher quality training as compared to Chinese troops.
Not necessarily. More money being spent on something does not necessarily equal higher quality training.
Well, higher quality equipment.
Well, yeah, we definitely have higher quality equipment. So does Japan.
Yeah.
And Israel.
But the thing is, though, China just has like an enormous population that they can train, and they have 30 million more men than women in their country. I think they wanted it that way to fuel a war machine.
Right.
Darn it.
They got a culture that is trying to encourage people to get more sons as opposed to daughters.
Right, yeah.
But to kind of rewind a little bit back, like the first paragraph that I read there, the oil and gas industry and some Republican leaders are resisting new calls for mandated cybersecurity standards for pipelines in the wake of the ransomware attack on the Colonial Pipeline. This just goes bringing up a point in my head. Like, you remember, like, earlier this year of one that we gone reading about as to how that Biden was, like, crippling the electric grid, exposing it for more potential, violation by the Chinese and so forth?
Yes. So who wouldn't want the Russian Federation and the Chinese Communist Party to have control of America's energy grid?
Right. The reason
Who would see that as a problem?
The reason why I mentioned that is to kind of point out, in all fairness, it seems that Republicans are almost being kind of frilly on that front as well. At least, but it's not the electric grid. Instead, this time it's the pipeline.
Yeah, I remember that. Biden reversed a Trump executive order that prevented Russian or Chinese equipment from being used in America's electrical grid. That's one of the most dangerous executive orders ever. Can you imagine if the Chinese Communist Party was able to sneak in something into our electrical grid and they were able to disable it, even for a short period of time? Just imagine the chaos that would be done to this country with no electricity, where our phones don't work, where we're back in the Stone Age for a minute, the chaos that would ensue.
Red Feather asks, wait, we're outsourcing our electrical grid now? What the fuck? No, that wasn't the details of the story that I had read like a couple months back, actually. They were like accepting. Okay, Joe Biden was signing an executive action that basically nixes a past executive action by Trump that was meant to secure the electric grid better. And within the executive order that Biden signed, basically it would allow or even incentivize that the electrical grid use some certain Chinese-made technology in the makings of the electrical grid, or something along those lines. I would have to go back and read the exact details of it, but that was one of the issues with it.
Yeah, and I think that executive order is potentially incredibly dangerous.
Yeah.
Nobody should think, oh, the CCP wouldn't do that. Oh yeah, oh hell yeah, they would. If they thought their regime was threatened, there's nothing they wouldn't do to stay in power.
Now, supposedly, Biden said that 100 days after signing that executive action that he was going to sign, or that his administration was going to get forth a new plan for securing the electrical grid, but that is yet to be seen, though. Anyway, Richard Glick, a Democrat who chairs the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, called on Congress this week to establish mandatory pipeline cybersecurity standards similar to those already applied to the electricity sector. The American Petroleum Institute, the largest oil and gas industry lobby group, is pushing back on the prospect of regulatory action over pipelines. Okay, I just gotta say, I don't know. I mean, what would the anarchist position be on something like this, I wonder? Just to, for the sake of conversation. For or against these safety regulations to securing the pipeline away from foreign enemies and away from hacking in general, is what I gotta wonder. Because in an ideal world, yeah, we wouldn't need these sorts of regulations. But for how the world is right now, it almost seems disappointing that they would not be for these safety regulations to prevent any hacking from happening within our pipeline by a foreign entity. This case being, Chinese government or Russian independent hackers or whatever else have you. But yeah, I don't know. I think with the current world that we live in, that an argument could be made for regulating a big, volatile piece of infrastructure like that. I don't know. Maybe it's a conversation that I would have to have with one of my ANCAP or anarchist followers. But for right now, an API official told reporters Tuesday that discussing new cybersecurity mandates is premature as investigators learn how the hackers, an organized crime group called DarkSide, breached Colonial's computer networks in the most significant successful cyber attack ever on energy infrastructure in the United States. The official said member companies are aware of cyber threats facing the oil and gas industry and stressed strong communication that already occurs with intelligence agencies. Trump administration Energy Secretary Dan Brûlé, that's French, obviously, called for better information sharing between the private companies that own the vast majority of energy infrastructure and the federal government. I am not sure another layer of regulation is going to fix the issue, Brûlé told the Washington Examiner. There are easier things we can do. All right, I'm all ears. What is that? Those solutions. The government, he said, should be proactive while still making sure to protect sources and methods from the intelligence community because companies don't always know how to recognize a cyber breach in real time. It's not always intuitive, Brûlé said. Attackers have become very good. Private industry is always on the defense. The attackers always play offense, so they have an advantage. But some policymakers and regulators say... Pardon me. But some policymakers and regulators say it makes no sense that the nation's nearly 3 million miles of oil and gas pipelines largely lack federal cybersecurity oversight, unlike the electric grid, which is subject to mandatory standards overseen by the FERC in coordination with the North American Electric Reliability Corporation. Now, as far as I'm seeing, there is a little bit of a difference with the oil pipelines as compared to electric grid. As it stands currently, the electricity sector is in large part a highly publicly owned entity. So it would make more sense of why that the government would put forth more regulations to protect their own owned or at least quasi-owned sector of the economy, that being the electricity sector. But oil pipelines, I'm not so sure of how publicly versus privately owned they are. Now, a lot of times, oil companies got to get approval from the government, like get contracts, like in the case of the Keystone Oil Pipeline, have to get approval to build those suckers in the first place. But as far as ownership after it's built, I'm not sure. I don't really think so, if I had to guess anyways. JC Armitage in the live chat on the last point that I brought up about regulations over pipelines. It's two or more monopolies engaging in covert ops proxy wars, where the main ones who suffer are those outside of the political class. Okay, thanks for your 2 cents, JC. Simply encouraging pipelines to voluntarily adopt best practices in an inadequate response to the ever-increasing number and sophistication of malevolent cyber actors. Glick, the FERC's chairman, said in a statement, mandatory pipeline security standards are necessary to protect the infrastructure on which we all depend. Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas was asked about Glick's statement at the White House press briefing Tuesday and avoided directly saying whether the Biden administration plans to work with Congress on forcing cybersecurity requirements on pipelines. Our conversations have been ongoing with respect to what measures we need to take administratively and in companion with the legislature, Mayorkas said. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki said the administration has encouraged cooperation between the public and private sectors, but she put the onus on companies to be better prepared. Which, in a more libertarian perspective of things, yeah, the responsibility should be more on the entity, the privately owned company that actually owns the piece of property that needs protecting over and so forth. JC Armitage says, I thought oil pipelines were state-owned. That maybe have to be something that I Google up here in a bit, but for right now. A big lesson for this is for all companies to harden their cybersecurity apparatus and to ensure they are protecting themselves, even as we are working as a government to plan for contingencies and ensure that across the federal government we have all the necessary protections in place, Psaki said Tuesday. President Joe Biden's $2.3 trillion infrastructure and clean energy plan does not mention cybersecurity. Biden, however, is expected to announce this week an executive order on cybersecurity standards. Bruce Walker, a senior Energy Department official focused on cybersecurity in the Trump administration, suggested new regulations would take time to implement and struggle to keep pace with nation-state actors such as Russia, bent on assaulting U.S. critical infrastructure, or China. DarkSide has denied any interest in politics and links to Russian intelligence. Although that is, it seems kind of almost suspicious, so it's yet to be proven either way, in my opinion. Standards suggest commonality, and if pipeline operators all have to implement a specific safeguard, the perpetrator just has to solve for a single problem. When you blanketly put standards out, it doesn't encourage the buy-in and exchange of information and knowledge integral to moving forward in a world where you are dealing with nation-state actors. There's no silver bullet here, Walker told the Washington Examiner. Many oil and gas companies aren't always being proactive on their own, though. A survey of 125 midstream oil and gas company officials published in January by Jones Walker LLP, cited Monday by the legal news outlet Law 360, found that while 40% of companies reported an attempted or successful data breach in the past year, only 7% updated their written security policies. 40% had a data breach? Damn. That is too high for comfort right there. The survey showed that... Sorry, what?
Yep. Malicious actors are able to take every bit of data from us.
The survey showed that...
World.
Sorry, what?
That's why we need a Butlerian jihad right here. That's why computers are dangerous.
The survey showed that just 38% of companies will increase their cybersecurity budget this year, and that 88% of respondents don't actively exchange cybersecurity best practices with their peers. End of article. So, what is your opinion, Loudmouth, as far as regulations and automation and all that goes?
Well, of course. Well, I think I've stated needs to be able to be operated manually so that a single hack can't cripple the U.S. like this. We need to be less reliant on automation.
All right. How would you go about in trying to trying to incentivize or even enforce, just for the sake of questioning that sort of standard, that automation?
Well,
ought to be
maybe
less?
this will. Who knows? Like this disaster and everything that comes from it. Maybe we'll question why the hell it's even possible to hack an oil pipeline.
So you think there's a possibility that out of this crisis and past couple crises, that people could just be incentivized of their own free will to start relying less on computerized technology?
Possibly, but probably not. So I think there probably do need to be laws that mostly to penalize companies that have data breaches. I think would be a good way that would really incentivize companies to beef up their cybersecurity. If companies could be seriously fined, or possibly if owners of companies could even possibly face criminal charges for breaching customers' data. If that were to happen, that would actually do a good job at helping to secure data.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, just FYI to everybody, I'm mostly just asking for Loudmouth's opinion on that front. I'm not necessarily espousing my own opinion on what exactly should happen. Like, I'm still wondering myself what exactly should happen.
Right, I don't claim to be an expert in this matter. I'm just talking as a general rule about how I think automating everything has serious dangers, and I think this shows that.
Aircraft
This
spark.
whole shit show.
Right. The entire Biden administration has been a big old shit show thus far. Whole lot of dangerous.
Pretty much, yeah, man. I'm amazed at how much damage that old fart has managed to do in only like how long has it been?
Little over 100 days.
10 days or 15 days, I don't know.
Right. Aircraft Sparky in the live chat, he opens up just by saying penis. Except he misspells it PENUS instead. What should happen just popped in. We're asking the open question of what should happen in regards of cybersecurity goes on infrastructure sectors of the economy, like the electrical power grid and oil pipelines, etc. Sparky, that's what we're asking.
I don't know.
But anyway, so moving on from those subjects, the title of this live stream was talking about gas prices rising and labor force dropping. Like, I've yet to actually get into the subject of labor force. Talked about gas prices plenty, and of course the pipeline shutdown. But now getting more into labor force, the talking point has been brought about a whole lot recently, especially by Ben Shapiro, as I've been listening to him, about how with all these stimulus checks, on top of whatever welfare benefits that people have outside of their stimulus checks, is kind of disincentivizing people from working. Crap. 1 second, y'all. I gotta just very quickly. All right, I muted myself from OBS, and yeah. So sorry.
Apparently, there's fires in Jerusalem that are kind of like happening right now. Kind of scary shit.
Oh yeah, I mean, hearing about the Hamas, the attacks going back and forth between the Israelis and Hamas as of recently, which that'll probably be the subject for next week, folks. Just in case that you were wondering of why am I not talking about that. But anyway.
But I'm just like listening, seeing some live updates in my feed, and I'm like, shit, man, this is like intense.
Pretty intense, huh? That's why I told you to
like
touch nothing but your bunch of cowboys.
But I'm saying, like, this police station was apparently set on fire in Jerusalem just now, just like within the last hour or two.
Right. I mean, it's not too surprising. That's what I go. That's actually what I heard from the Ben Shapiro show. Yeah, it was yesterday's program that I was listening to this morning. But he was breaking down the details, saying as to how that it's because the police were like vacating a bunch of Palestinian from their homes because they were refusing to pay their rent. At least that's according to Ben Shapiro, anyways. It's not intense, just another Tuesday in Israel, Aircraft Sparky says. Well, I guess relative to Middle Eastern terms, it's not that intense, but it's all the same. Things always intense in the Middle East. But anyway, to sort of get onto the subject of labor force, so as Ben Shapiro goes talking about, and multiple other people for that matter, like I actually was listening to Ranting Monkey as well. Both their podcasts go talking about this subject, pointing out as to how that the stimulus checks in combination with people's welfare outside of stims is sort of incentivizing people to work less. And I just wanted to like go looking at the labor force participation rate myself, especially knowing as to how that during the Obama administration, conservatives would be saying labor force participation is dropping in spite of to make it only look like unemployment is going down for the Obama administration. And then liberals will be all like, oh, that's only because more and more old people are retiring, so therefore it only looks that way. So that's what I'm doing here right now. As you can see, of course, labor force participation was just naturally dropping because of the the preemptive lockdowns that happened. No shit, Sherlock, that was quite obvious from the start. But even now, getting somewhat out of the lockdowns, I do not know if you guys can see it, it's so small. But in April 2020, it was only at 60.2%, whereas beforehand, in February of 2020, it was 63.3%. So an over 3% drop. And now, as we are like trying to get out of the lockdowns and whatnot, we're only at 61.7%. So it is a very weak recovery thus far to say. In spite of the fact that everything is opening back up, jobs are coming back as Biden likes to tout and about all the time. It's just that people are not taking those jobs, not as at as fast of a rate as they should be. That's the overall labor force participation rate, though. Looking at 25 to 54, even that for the general working population, working age population, it still remains anemic. Because originally, before the lockdowns, it was like around 83%. It was like 79.8% in April 2020, and now it is only at 81.3%. What are you about to say, Loudmouth?
I'm just listening.
Okay. Looking at 55 years and older, getting closer to the retirement age.
Oh my God, man! This is. I'm just watching more of this footage, man, from Israel, and I'm just like, damn.
Oh. Hey, if you're on your computer, actually, you can like screen share that, and I can possibly I can possibly show that. Actually, no, you'll have to like send me a link of the video or something.
Maybe it's better not to, but it's scary.
I hear you.
Hamas has just been firing off like loads of rockets. Just imagine being there. Imagine if you're like Canada or Mexico was like firing the shit into America.
Mm.
Or like Cuba was firing into Miami. It's crazy.
Right. In all fairness, it seems that 55 and older, it seems to have fallen, like in spite of getting out of the lockdowns. But with the oldest population, 65 years and over with no disability, it was at 26% February 2020 before the lockdowns. Then in April 2020, it was 23.5%. May was when it hit the lowest at 23%. And getting out, it was at 24%, then it dropped and then raised again. So it isn't that heavily that the older people are contributing to the labor force participation rate. People within the appropriate working age are just not working, just going off of by the stats anyways, for extra context to everybody. But that's kind of all that I wanted to say about the labor force participation stats. I also have this piece by the Washington Examiner talking about it is anti-science to push more lockdowns, and so I wanted to read that here in a little bit, but first addressing the chat a little bit more. Coincidentally, are you surprised the Palestinians wait until another feckless leader is in power before attacking Israel? You know what? That is a fair point. I didn't hear of an attack this massive during the Trump administration.
Nope.
Fair point, Sparky. My takes are too spicy. Well, no, it's just because I was trying to get through that point there before going on the chat anymore. But let's see what he has to say. Well, that's simple. Blame Biden. Who's going to take a job when you're paying people more to not work? Exactly, Sparky.
That is exactly the point. That's why all the stimulus, not only is it contributing to inflation, it's hurting the job market. It's just yeah, again, you feel like you're living in like an idiocracy. People just get these checks and they're like, duh, free money. And like, where do you think the money's coming from, dumbass? They're taking it out of one pocket and putting it in the other.
Right. I wonder of how much that the pro-Biden team this Friday is going to be arguing, but my modern monetary theory to try and defend the massive deficit spending and debt and printing and whatnot. I don't know.
Yeah. The dollar collapsing would be really bad for the world.
Right.
Not just in the United States, okay? It would be a massive boom. The whole world would be devastated because guess whose currency would replace it?
Chinese.
Yeah, the yuan. The yuan is even China's already working on a new digital yuan to help circumvent American sanctions. Kind of the dollar's placement as the global currency standard really is why American sanctions are so effective in punishing other nations. And if the dollar were to collapse, that power would be gone, and the CCP would and Iran would have enormously more economic power on the global stage.
Right. Erica Sparky says, kind of in relation to the Israel versus Hamas question or subject. I mean, the IDF did burn down a mosque with people in it, but they're Muslims. No one cares. Interesting. So it was Muslim on Muslim violence, and Israel was kind of responding to that in a way, I guess. By the way, this has been the first rocket attack since 2014. Really? I guess I haven't been keeping that much up to date on my Israeli attacks. Actually, I don't even recall a high-profile attack of Hamas versus Israel taking place during the Trump administration at all.
I don't think any did take place during the Trump administration. That does kind of say something, doesn't it?
Mr. Merchant, hello, how are you doing? He says in the live chat, when the people find that they can vote themselves money, that will herald the end of the republic. Benjamin Franklin.
Benjamin Franklin was a very wise man.
Right. J.C. Armitage. Speaking of the stimulus, did you hear that supposedly 10% of the U.S. population spent it on cryptocurrencies? Not surprised. I think I even heard like some of my favorite YouTubers I listen to say that they are doing that. Or maybe it was some of their fans. It does make me wonder
if like democracy can even work long term. With people being able to just vote themselves more money until your currency collapses and you have hyperinflation. It's something like China doesn't have to worry about. China doesn't have elections. All right, people can't just vote themselves free stuff. So and that kind of makes China strong on the global stage.
Yep. Buy crypto, the dollar will tank, says Aircraft Sparky. You know, I've been kind of meandering about on actually investing into anything that's harder than the almighty dollar. I should probably like get onto that a whole lot sooner than I actually am. But anyway, to sort of get on with it a little bit, or buy precious metals has sent one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been considering.
So it costs, because in a year it'll cost $5,000 to buy a new ice cream cone at Dairy Queen.
Shit. So kind of moving on to a little bit more relating to the subject of lockdowns and coronavirus a bit, because the reason why the stimulus checks and labor force participation happened was because, of course, in relation to lockdowns and whatnot. Before I get to reading this article, there's actually a little talking point that I wanted to address here from Sahil, the progressive voice, Habibi. Now, I don't really care much for the rest of this video right here because he goes responding to Candace Owens, and I don't really care that much for Candace Owens. And maybe if there's like some other video where he goes talking about the science of the coronavirus and how that the lockdowns are legitimate because of it or whatever, maybe I'll respond to that kind of video. But right here, I'm not going to bother with most of it, except for one particular talking point from him that I just wanted to address very quickly.
It's a picture of, I believe this was the strike, that was the farmers' strike that was
You can hear it, of course, right, Loudmouth?
Yeah.
All right.
going on in India. And it says, 2 weeks ago, I told you all that India was the country to watch, as millions of their workers were stranded along the railroad, no means of social distancing. India has just 169 deaths, reported its first case in January. But it's 10 times more deadly than the flu, bro. So this is actually one of the craziest tweets I've ever read, because what this is doing is just literally full-on COVID denialism. If you're making an argument that massive gatherings of this size are okay in terms of COVID, that's insane. I mean, this is probably the craziest thing. This is probably off the charts, because I would say that even most people who are deniers of coronavirus would probably agree, like, hey, yeah, this isn't a good situation or an okay situation when there's COVID going on.
Well, then they are not COVID deniers, asshole. Like, I don't care much for Candace Owens, and I think she's taken a little bit too much of a hard-line, overstepping approach when it comes to her commentary of coronavirus, and I'm pretty sure that you would pretty much agree yourself, Loudmouth, that Owens is putting her foot in her mouth, right?
Yeah, but it's kind of ironic because India now is like some of the highest number of cases in the world.
Yep.
India has been actually doing really bad lately.
But I was just one to respond to that talking point of where he's all like, even COVID deniers, quote unquote, would be kind of saying, Candace Owens, you're a little bit off base or whatever. Well, they're not COVID deniers by your own admission within that statement there, Sahil. There's a difference between
but that's just progressive voice being stupid. But
yeah.
That's...
Like, there's a difference between a COVID denier and a COVID skeptic. I would call myself more of a COVID skeptic, I guess you could say, but I'm not a COVID denier. Like, I don't think it's an outright hoax or anything. That's the only type of person that you could really call a COVID denier, is if they think that it is an outright hoax. But I'm not at that camp.
Yeah, everyone knows the virus is real and has killed thousands of people, or possibly millions of people.
Right. It's not to say that there aren't any people who believe that it is a hoax or whatnot, but just a whole lot of people who are skeptical of the stats and whatnot are speaking out against the lockdowns. They are not deniers. Get off your high horse. It's
right.
about.
It's mostly just that they believe that the benefits of the lockdowns aren't worth the costs. That the long-term socioeconomic costs are not to this country. Its cost to Americans' mental health and what have you just are not worth the price.
Precisely. I mean, it's about
it's just generally that they did their own cost-benefit analysis, and they don't agree with yours. It's not that they're denying the virus.
Yeah. I mean, it's about as ridiculous as somebody saying that somebody's a climate change denier just because they don't agree with all these policies to be banning, like, conventional fuels or coal or whatever, or to be putting heavy taxes on them. And even if a person was to so much be questioning your projections as far as how much the Earth's temperature will rise within the next 100 years, if you leftists say that it's going to raise by 3 degrees Celsius, and then some right-winger goes saying, actually, I have these projections that's only going to raise by 2 degrees Celsius, and you go all like, you're a climate change denier. They aren't a climate change denier. Objectively, they are just not. They're not denying that it's happening. They're just questioning the severity of it that you guys are proposing of it. And same thing applies to this right here. They're not denying that coronavirus exists and that it's hurting people, making them sick and whatnot. They're just questioning the severity of it. That is all.
And they're questioning whether the lockdowns do enough to prevent the virus from spreading to be worth the massive cost that they're having on people's businesses. And they question why on earth it's a good policy to allow Jeff Bezos to make billions of dollars while small businesses are forced to shut down.
Yeah. That's another irony is that Stephen Michael Davis, he actually played a clip of Kyle Kulinski in one of his recent videos of where that Kyle Kulinski of Secular Talk was going on about how that Amazon is benefiting and small businesses are hurting. Gee, I wonder why that is. Is it possibly because of the lockdowns that you go advocating for as to why that they are hurting? Kyle?
Cognitive dissonance there is staggering to me.
The lack of self-awareness. Like, of course, he and a bunch of other leftists will be all like, that's why that we need to put forth all these bailouts and subsidies for small businesses. Well, why not let them decide for themselves on how that they are going to handle their business? Whether they want to try to continue being in business to continue paying the bills, or build up their own savings so that they can be shut down for a certain amount of time, et cetera, instead of having to hurt our own, fiscal spending situation by giving trillions upon trillions of bailouts, loans, and stimulus checks and other stuff like that. It just seems like you're having the economy hurt itself. Okay, these government policies, you're having the government hurting the economy, but also trying to heal the economy at the same time. It's ironic. It's like a mugger coming up to beat you because they do not like you for some arbitrary reason, and then they just a few minutes later go applying a bandage over you. It's kind of ironic in almost that similar fashion.
Yep.
But to sort of continue on with that, I'll read you guys' live chats a little bit later after reading this article. But this is the last article of the day, just FYI to y'all. It is anti-science to push more lockdowns. And since you're here, Loudmouth, you're the perfect person to help give commentary on this article. And it's an opinion piece, just to annotate that to everybody. The Washington Post's Eugene Robinson said this week, without irony, that Republicans have become untethered from reality. Then, in the same breath, he said red state governors who are eager to ease up on coronavirus lockdowns are responsible for needless illness and death. Untethered from reality, look who's talking. Liberals and Democrats have so fetishized lockdowns. Oh, how do you like your own rhetoric being thrown back at you, leftists? You say that we're a bunch of gun fetishists, quote unquote, because we advocate for gun rights. Well, guess what? You guys are a bunch of lockdown fetishists. But starting that over, liberals and Democrats have so fetishized lockdowns and are so busy telling people to stay home that they haven't bothered to look at the data in months. Lockdowns may have stalled the spread of the coronavirus, giving much of the country time to figure out how best to treat infected patients and put in place protocols that meant we could manage it until vaccines were available without keeping everything completely shut down. Then again, they may not have. The data leaves open the possibility that lockdowns had no impact at all, or may have even had an adverse effect, with some evidence indicating that keeping people at home led to more infections. I mean, we do have a vaccine being rolled out to everybody, and I mean, would you encourage people to get a COVID-19 vaccine, Loudmouth? Just to ask for your opinion.
If you're afraid of the virus, sure, get the vaccine.
All right. I mean, I don't
personally. I'm indifferent to whether I get it or not. My parents have already had it, so my biggest fear was I would accidentally get it and give it to them. But they've already had it and they're doing fine.
Mm-hmm. I was actually, funny enough, exposed to somebody who I hugged and ate one of the a bit of food that they practically breathed on during the party, who tested positive the very next day after that sort of interaction. And yet about yet about a week later, I had tested negative, and then another week later, I had no symptoms at all. So I kind of suspect that I have antibodies or some kind of immunity to it personally. So
Right. I think I do too, even though I have no evidence of that. But I've been in enough situations where I could have gotten it, and yet I've never gotten sick.
Right. So me personally, on an individualist basis, I don't think I really need it. And I have been listening to Ben Shapiro a lot, and he might upset some of the stronger, more extreme bases of the Republican Party voting base and whatnot. But he's been like touting out a lot the idea of people like voluntarily, mind you, taking the vaccine and wearing masks and so forth. But now that the vaccines, of course, are being rolled out, he's saying that we can open back up and we no longer need to wear the masks. Especially if you have been vaccinated yourself, you definitely don't need the masks. And pretty much that's my opinion as well. And, you know, since we're on this point right here, Sahil also mentioned in this video talking about the vaccines and whatnot, and I just want to like put out that even though that I have had some skepticism a little bit about the vaccines, I never really denied, actually no, I never denied at all that they were going to be a protection against the COVID-19 itself. My only question was whatever side effects that there might be. Now, supposedly there was the rumor being floated about of how taking the COVID-19 vaccine will make a man sterile, make him infertile. I've been researching into that, and if I was to be quite honest, I've seen no evidence of that being a side effect that is common enough with taking the COVID-19 vaccine.
I was hoping you would turn me into a vampire.
That'd be cool, wouldn't it? You'd be able to.
That was the plot of I Am Legend.
Oh right, they turn into a bunch of zombie vampires.
Yeah.
All right. So, at the moment, the state with the worst infection and death rate is Michigan, run by Democratic Governor Gretchen Whitmer. Even she admitted last month that despite her state having some of the strongest protocols in the country, this virus has come raging back. And I guess on a similar point, JC Armitage said a lot earlier in the live chat. Didn't India have long-term lockdowns and mask mandates? Yeah, like they hurt their own economy and sent a whole lot of people into poverty because of it, and also because they did not have as sophisticated of a welfare state. But welfare arguments aside, but yeah, you have all these people that are like taking all these lockdown approaches, and yet it's like having little to no effect. And yeah, in contrast, well, I haven't actually gone looking into the data as far as Florida or Texas goes, but they have been like on a steady upturn as far as cases going down and their economy like recovering and so forth, as compared to Governor Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan and her state. She said this, mind you, on national television with a pillowcase that had Dr. Anthony... What the fuck? She said this, mind you, on national television with a pillowcase that had Dr. Anthony Fauci's face stitched across it in the background. Wait. You wear it? What?
Democrats are creepy. They really are.
You have that much of a worship complex of Dr. Anthony Fauci?
Yes.
That is some ultra cringe right there, folks.
Yeah, I'm willing to think that Dr. Fauci's face will be like Big Brothers from 1984. Dr. Fauci is watching you.
All hail Saint Fauci, everybody.
Yes.
Like that's been a common talking point of Ranting Monkey a lot recently, whenever diving into the issue of coronavirus. Our late, great Saint Anthony Fauci. Whitmer follows the science, quote unquote. At almost any given moment throughout the past year, the top 10 states with the worst infection rates had vastly different coronavirus policies and were basically run by a mix of Republican and Democratic governors. That is, other than the top two, which were consistently New Jersey and New York, both Democratic. Right now, it's Michigan, Democratic, Colorado, Democratic, Maine, Democratic, Minnesota, Democratic, West Virginia, Republican, Pennsylvania, Democratic, Florida, Republican, Delaware, Democratic, Rhode Island, Democratic, and Illinois, Democratic. I wonder, is that like by a per capita or a raw amount basis? I'm just wondering.
Not sure.
But this article right here is being rather vague, so and it's mostly an opinion piece. It probably would have been more helpful if I actually gone searching better for an article that goes diving into the stats a little bit more. I don't know. Maybe there's a point to be made that I should not be as reliant on Washington Examiner as I am, but nonetheless, here we are. All but 2 are Democratic. Why aren't they following the science? The truth is that lockdowns aren't science. They never were. They were a Hail Mary. Robinson and other liberals would know that if they weren't so untethered from reality. End of article. And yeah, it's kind of funny because I remember back during my when I was making my response video to Foamy the Squirrel on the issue of the lockdowns, he was going on consistently about how that science tells you to stay the fuck indoors and whatnot. And I was all like, no, not necessarily. The science says as to what will happen if you get exposed to the virus and so forth. It does not say what measure exactly should be taken, much less does science say government action now. Basically, echoing the same sentiment that I've had before that article was. But anyway, what do you have to say in summation of this particular subject, Loudmouth?
Not much to say, to be honest.
But you're pretty much now for getting out of the lockdowns and opening back up? Right.
Yeah, definitely. It's more than time. Plus, we have a vaccine. There's just no need for it anymore.
The CCP may not allow voting, but they also engage in a lot of money printing like the U.S. does, says JC Armitage.
Oh, yeah, they certainly do, yes.
Yeah, so now is the part...
My point wasn't that the CCP's way is necessarily better, just in that single aspect that being able to vote yourself more money is a very dangerous thing. That's why the founders of the United States tried to find a balance between the popular will and more unshakable principles, which is why they made the amendment process in the Constitution really difficult, requiring such an overwhelming majority and what have you. Why they gave courts power to overturn the popular will. Yeah. I was just kind of making a more broad point that there are good reasons to avoid the popular will. Not really saying the CCP's way is better. Trust me, I hate the CCP.
Right. Pretty much we all do. I doubt that I have any CCP shills in my live chat right now.
Right. But most saying no elections, so people can't just vote themselves money until the country's bankrupt. But yeah, the Chinese Communist Party absolutely does manipulate their markets and devalue their currency. Yes, they do. They absolutely do that.
You said do.
And it does come back to bite them. It can in the short term help them, but sometimes it comes back to bite them. Like in 2016, right. they actually had a big recession in China that didn't affect the United States because of that, because they devalued their currency so much over the years.
Right. Okay. It's like saying people. Red Feather says in the chat, that's like saying people who refuse to get the COVID shot are anti-vaxxers. I don't know. I would have to ask the question of what exactly is the definition of an anti-vaxxer. Is it somebody that goes campaigning against, vaccines? Or is it, or could it also include people who refuse personally to take vaccines, but they don't really care legislatively? Well, not so much legislatively, but they do not care so much if you choose to get a vaccine.
With me, I'm not really refusing it. I just don't feel any need to get it. If someone tells me I had to do something, I'd be like, whatever, sure.
Right.
Because I really don't care. I'm vaccine indifferent on this regard.
I gotcha. Sentinel 1000 says, and you might have a little bit of a, I don't know, a thing with this live chat right here, Loudmouth. He says, I believe what is going on is a real virus, but it's more like the common cold and common flu.
It's definitely worse than the common cold and common flu. I mean, no question there. It's definitely killed a lot more people despite a lot more extreme measures to control it.
Right. I mean...
Well, because the common cold and common flu, we've kind of had more time to adapt to it. thing about this coronavirus is it's a novel coronavirus, so like our immune system's like it was new for people, and that's why it was deadlier.
All right. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the common flu does not ache your joints and have you give you like as hard a time of breathing as COVID-19 does.
Oh, it can. It can. Well, not the cold, but like influenza can give you trouble breathing as well. But
Okay.
it's just generally COVID-19, and 'cause it's a lung condition, it definitely really attacks the breathing, but much more effectively than influenza, and it definitely is deadlier. I mean, we've had massive measures against this virus, way more than previous influenza outbreaks
Right.
over my lifetime, and yet it still has managed to kill a lot more people.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I was at first one of those people who was all like it's equivalent to the flu, but I've kind of, excuse me. I guess I've become more towards the COVID-19 acceptor. I guess I don't know what to call those types of people.
I knew this was the things were going to get bad in early 2020 when I heard about China shutting down their cities, because I knew that the Chinese Communist Party wouldn't do such an action unless it was serious, unless they were genuinely scared of this virus.
Fair enough.
And it showed there was good reason to fear.
That pause face, says Aircraft Sparky. Seriously, is that guy coming? Jeez. Sparky, shut up. Again, it's just my opinion of the virus, says sent one. Okay, then. Just getting caught up on the live chat here a little bit, folks, and then I'm probably going to end this live stream soon afterwards. Speaking of India, you should see what I posted in Discord, specifically in Strike Force News, says JC Armitage. All right, I will definitely take a look at that. I always like to get updated in my Discord and other social medias immediately after these live streams anyways. Sentiment 1000 says, LOL, speaking of irony, to quote Garland Green of Con Air, define irony. A bunch of idiots dancing around on a plane to a song made famous by a band that died in a plane crash. Oh, jeez. Okay. No, that's actually kind of dark. You know, Leonard Skinner, actually. That would be a prime example. Like, not everybody in the band died in a plane crash, but like almost half of them died in a plane crash way back in the late 70s or something like that. And then Van Zant's brother had to take up the role of being singer of Leonard Skinner. They also had to replace the guitarist and other folks like that. But that would be a particular example that comes to mind with that live chat comment sent one. Red Feather says, wait, since when were any politicians ever tethered to reality? Fair point, Red Feather. Sent one, that's a great line. Red Feather says, Governor Witless, right? Good one. Florida is doing just fine. Dr. Anthony, what the fuck, LMAO. I guess she's reacting to how Gretchen Whitmer is practically worshiping Anthony. I hope that pillowcase, I hope that pillow pic has 3 masks on. Oh, brother. Are you pretty much do you find it really ridiculous that people would have to be double masking, or that people would be double masking at all, Loudmouth?
Extremely. Why not triple mask or quadruple, or everyone should not go outside unless they're wearing at least 62 masks.
Wow, that put a sprain on their neck.
Yes, but yeah, 62 masks on their face and over their eyes and over their asshole and everything else.
Red Feather says anti-vaxxers won't even get their kids vaccinated and are super Karens to those that do. Fair enough, Red Feather.
I'm all for vaccines, and I'm all for taking the vaccine if you're afraid of this virus.
Mr. Merchant says, not as dark as the dark conservatarian. Ha! Got him. Redfire says LMAO, loudmouth. Mr. Merchant also says earlier, inflation and money printing is proof the economy is growing. Paul Krugman probably, as well as other economic illiterates. You know, it's funny. I was like listening to some modern monetary theory videos this morning at work, or during work rather. And Paul Krugman, oddly enough, is one of those people that is more outspoken against MMT. So I don't know if one could like attribute that quote or something along those lines to Krugman specifically. But I don't know. I don't really have much of an opinion either way about Paul Krugman. All I know is that he's just vaguely a leftist economic guy. Although there is one particular leftist economic guy that I really dislike. Professor Richard Wolff. Have you seen that debate that he did against Destiny, loudmouth?
No, I have not.
Yeah, PSA Sitch and Adam Friended, they did a review of it. And it was some of the most funniest and most infuriating shit at the same time. Like, Richard Wolff kept on, like, filibustering the entire time on there. And whenever that Destiny would try to interject even just a little bit, he would be all like, would you let me finish, please?
Oh, man.
You never give a straight answer to any of Destiny's questions to sort of speed along the conversation. Like, Destiny would ask, how do you define capitalism? And Richard Wolff would be like, well, there are multiple definitions. There is a definition of social democracy, of where there is government to help out the people, as well alongside people privately owning business. And there's also the definition. And it's just like, get on with the question. What is your definition? We're not asking how do you define, or what other people define as socialism or capitalism or whatever. Well, I said capitalism earlier. I meant to say he defined socialism that way. My bad. But you get my drift. It was just frustrating in that sort of way. And go more towards
Destiny is a good debater. There's no doubt. The guy's pretty witty fellow.
Yeah, I've been gaining more respect towards the guy, especially during that Kyle Rittenhouse debate that he had with Vosh.
Oh God, yes, that was just amazing. Vosh is such a dishonest son of a bitch. It really isn't that hard to show him as the poverty of his thinking on that issue. Yeah,
child porn advocate and all.
Yes, but anyways, back to the age of consent.
Right, mobs chase murderers.
Mobs chase murderers. Yes, Vosh. Yeah, I can't stand that thing, I guess. But
that's what the KKK was doing the whole time during the Jim Crow era. Is everybody? Hashtag KKK did nothing wrong.
Dude, that's
totally joking. Totally joking.
But
hey, if anybody wants to take that out of context, fuck you.
Yeah, that's the real problem with the internet. There's always assholes who take you out of context.
Right.
But yeah, seriously, he absolutely destroyed Vosh in that debate. It was beyond. It was a slaughter.
Yeah, he made him look kind of like an idiot in another debate that he had with him about socialist hypocrisy, exposing as to how that Philosophy Tube is pretty much a dumbass, and Vosh was just being so desperate to try and defend Philosophy Tube. Instead of granting the benefit of the doubt, okay, yeah, they're flawed. Instead of like taking that approach, he was all like, I can see how that's the fact that they're speaking is wrong, but even though they're factually wrong, they are rhetorically correct.
Yeah, the only time Vosh ever seemed intelligent in a debate was when he debated Hunter Avalon.
Yeah. Oh, man. Actual Justice Warrior making all the videos exposing that sad state of affairs.
Oh, God, that guy.
Rest in peace, Hunter Avalon's brain, everybody.
Honestly, though, Hunter Avalon's brain is not dead, because that would imply he was once alive at one point.
Mm-hmm.
It was never a functioning organism.
Fair enough. I mean, he was really a simpleton during his Trumpist days anyway, so there is a point.
Yeah, he always was. That's the main thing. All he ever did when he was a conservative, that's why I never could stand watching his videos, was just repeat right-wing talking points other people said. And now that he moved leftward, now he just repeats left-wing talking points other people said. He's never had an original thought in his life.
Precisely.
He's one of the dumbest men on YouTube. I mean, he's not the dumbest man on YouTube. His IQ is probably 2 or 3 points higher than no bullshits, but still, he's still up there.
I mean, there is a sense that Vosh can understand nuance more than no bullshit.
Bit,
whereas
yeah.
no bullshit, I would be even surprised if he knew what the definition of the word nuance was.
Yeah, he didn't know what the word critique was. Or someone
He did not know he did not know what socialism meant either.
Yeah, he said it was my critique ? What the fuck is that?
Could not even give a layman's definition of socialism. Like, I don't expect everybody to give the concise definition that everybody would, like and respect. But still,
like really, really social.
Yeah. Apparently, whenever I go out to a bar to have a good time, that's me being a socialist, everybody.
I'll never forget that one. I was laughing so hard I could barely breathe when I watched that stream.
You know, I'm going to have to, tell that to my friends sometime. Hey, did you know that we're all socialists just because we're all being social with each other? Just because we're drinking and having this party right here?
Yeah. Hunter Avalon is not quite as stupid as Brooks, but he's only like 2 or 3 IQ points higher. He's really stupid.
Okay, I thought you were referring to Vosh a little bit earlier, but I get it.
No, referring to Hunter Avalon. No, Vosh is not that stupid. He's way smarter than Hunter Avalon. But I don't think he's that smart. But he's just kind of a slippery character.
All right.
No, I was referring to Hunter Avalon. I said Hunter Avalon is not the dumbest man on YouTube, but he's close to it.
Okay, well then take everything that I said about Vosh as far as knowing the word nuance. Take that and switch out Vosh's name with Hunter's name. My bad, y'all.
No, Hunter Avalon doesn't know what the word nuance is. He definitely does not know what the word nuance is. He seems to think it's a magic word that applies to everything.
Yeah, you know what? Actual Justice Warrior did that in one of his videos. He just played repeatedly a whole bunch of clips of him saying nuance, 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 nuance. And Actual Justice Warrior was all like, you cannot just be using this word as a catch-all to try and justify your rhetoric, Hunter. Something along those lines.
That's just pretty much what he was doing. It's just it means whatever you want it to mean. If it can't articulate a point, he'll just say, well, it's a point full of nuance. All right.
Right.
I watched some of them, but honestly, I never could stand Hunter Avalon, even when I agreed with the guy. So I kind of am glad that he's not on my side of the aisle anymore.
Red Feather says, right, Loudmouth, I concur with that. But anyway, Red Feather says, I don't agree. Destiny constantly moves goalposts and answers questions with questions. That's not to say that he's a perfect guy. He absolutely flopped in that debate that he had with Bo Blacks, as was shown by the Nicholas Oreo live stream. You know, the one of where that Nicholas Oreo was talking to No BS. Before No BS showed up, the subject of that live stream was the debate that Bo Blacks had against Destiny. And Bo Blacks made Destiny look like a fool in that one. Just being dead honest. I
didn't watch that part of the debate. I only watched later, watching Brooks weasel his way out of shit. I forgot, who was it who said to him, hey, Brooks, are you fat or stupid first?
I don't know. It was some British guy.
Yeah, who said that one? Because that was a good one, man.
I was surprised that it got that small of a reaction. It did not get that much of a reaction on the live stream there, at least for people who were on call.
Because maybe I don't think everyone else got the joke there. The whole question, are you white or Jewish first earlier, which is just such a weird question he asked in that one debate with PSA Stitch. So him taking that, hey, are you fat or stupid first? That I thought that was absolutely hilarious.
So basically, Mr. Merchant says, so basically No BS plus Vosh equals Hunter Avalon. Sure, if you were to take the
Avalon
intelligence,
is
if you were
right
to
now.
take the intelligence of No BS and the leftism of Vosh, you would probably get Hunter Avalon. Actually,
Right.
that's probably not quite fair because I don't get the impression that Hunter Avalon has completely rejected capitalism yet, but he's getting close to it.
Right. Well, again, Hunter Avalon is not as stupid as No BS, but I mean, he is a stupid man, but he's not that stupid.
Right. Spaniard in the live chat saying McDonald's is endorsing the jab because they care about your health. If McDonald's says it's safe, it must be
Yeah, sure. I'll definitely get my health advice from McDonald's.
They're putting new packaging featuring needles on the food. McDonald's says get your jab through new food packaging. Okay, he's roasting the vaccines basically.
Well, sadly, I can't threaten to boycott McDonald's because I've been doing it for years for health reasons.
Oh, right. I've been doing it because, not just because of health reasons. Actually, the biggest reason is because my stomach aches every time that I get done eating a McDonald's sandwich or Burger King sandwich. So I steer clear from them like the plague.
Yeah.
If I ever want a burger, I'll go to Five Guys or Wendy's or some other place like that. But anyway, nuance is a nuanced word, says Red Feather. Right?
Nuance is a nuanced word.
Yes,
you just don't understand the nuance of this.
LOL.
I remember Hunter Avalon kept repeating that word. I'm like, you fucking idiot.
Nuance does not... Saying the word nuance doesn't make you invincible as far as response goes. Red Feather says, LOL, I never saw that, but if Bo Blacks makes you look like a fool, you must really be. Well, only in that moment with Destiny. I mean, whenever it comes to Vosh debating his own side, which I still believe that Destiny is a leftist to some degree, but when it comes
he is a leftist.
But when it comes to debating other leftists, that's when that he typically doesn't look like a fool. Actually, when it comes to even debating right-wingers, he can be a little bit of a tough cookie in my observation.
Right.
Like he was debating some Trumpists when it came to coronavirus, and I was all like, damn, I can't really respond to that, even though that I am like against lockdowns and so forth.
Yeah, he is.
But anyway, they put plastic in their milkshake, says Red Feather, referring to McDonald's. Is that true? I don't know.
It wouldn't surprise me much.
Well, anyway, I think that's actually where we'll end it off. McDonald's and healthy are like military intelligence. Two words combined that can't make sense, says JC Armitage. I don't know. I think military intelligence is more reliable than McDonald's and healthy. But anyway, sorry if I missed a whole bunch of live chat comments, but if I tried to address every single one of them, I'd be here forever. Even though I do like hanging out with Loudmouth here, I still got other things to do in my night, and I'm pretty sure that we all do, and pretty sure that he does as well. Loudmouth, I mean. But hey, Loudmouth, thanks for joining on the call. It's been fun hearing your commentary on these subjects.
Yep, no problem.
And for all of you watching, don't forget to hit that like button, and if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to hit the bell notification button as well. And oh, I almost forgot. I should have said this in the opening, but this show is brought to you by patrons like you. Cat Chat, Michaela Stray Cat, and The Conundrum are the three main ones right now. But if you would like to also help support me monetarily in regards of my content creation, link for my Patreon is down below. You'll get an immediate Discord invite. I still have to polish out all the benefits that you get for donating to my Patreon, but if you're at all interested, it's down there. But anyway, thank you all for watching, and I'll see y'all later. Have a good night. God bless, and stay safe, y'all.